The room was packed, but you could hear a pin drop. People sat still, eyes wide, not quite believing what they had just heard. Chairman Jerry Nadler, one of the most senior members of Congress, had just looked up from his papers and said something that would stop the entire hearing cold. "Perhaps, Mr. Patel, you should go back to Uganda before lecturing this committee on American national security." For a second, no one moved. The silence was thick, almost heavy. Members of Congress from both sides glanced around, unsure of how to react. Some Republicans shifted in their seats, visibly stunned. Even a few Democrats looked uncomfortable. The questions started off direct but still polite. Nadler asked about how certain documents were handled during Patel's time in office, and Patel answered clearly, trying to stick to the facts, but the more he spoke, the more Nadler's tone shifted. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It sounded like accusation, and slowly the calm in the room began to fade. You could feel the heat rising in the room. The kind of heat that doesn't come from the lights or the cameras, but from something else. Tension, pressure. The sense that something was about to snap. Patel kept his voice steady as he answered. But it was clear Nadler wasn't satisfied. He started cutting Patel off mid-sentence, saying things like, "That's not what I asked," or "Just answer the question, Mr. Patel." Each time Patel tried to explain the background or provide context, Nadler would shut it down. His voice louder, more forceful. The two men weren't just talking anymore. They were clashing, and everyone watching knew it. Some Republican members started shifting in their chairs. Others raised eyebrows, but they didn't jump in. Not yet. The air in the hearing room was tight, filled with the sound of Nadler's voice growing sharper and Patel trying to stay on track, trying to be respectful, trying to explain his side. But every time he began to dig into the details about interagency protocols or explain why classification decisions weren't always black and white, Nadler would interrupt, brushing past it, moving on to the next question. Before the last one was even finished, it stopped feeling like a hearing and started feeling like something else, something personal. Patel wasn't being treated like an expert witness anymore. He was being challenged, like he didn't belong there, like his answers weren't just wrong but unwanted. The words were still about documents and security, but the tone had changed, and it was getting harder to ignore. Even Patel's calm face started to show the strain. His pauses got longer. His hands stopped moving. He just stared straight ahead, waiting for the next interruption. People in the room began to notice. Staffers whispered to one another. Committee members leaned closer. The hearing was no longer just about classified documents. It was about control, about respect, about who gets to speak and who gets shut down. And just when it felt like the tension couldn't rise any higher, Nadler said something that took the whole thing to a place no one saw coming. The insult wasn't just personal, it carried weight. It carried history. It sounded like something ripped from a time this country had tried to leave behind. And then, without raising his voice, without showing anger, Kash Patel reached forward and adjusted the microphone. He didn't lash out. He didn't blink fast or stutter. He sat up a little straighter, looked Nadler in the eye, and said calmly, "Mr. Chairman, before I respond to that comment, I'd like to share something with the committee that I hadn't planned to discuss today." That's when everything changed. What could have become a shouting match turned into something else. Something that no one in that room, or across the country watching online, expected. In that moment, Patel didn't just respond. He took control of the story. He turned an insult into a turning point. And what he said next left not just Congress but the entire nation completely speechless. Jerry Nadler was the man holding the gavel that day, a longtime congressman from New York with a serious look and a sharp tone. He had been in politics for decades, leading big investigations and asking tough questions. He was now the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, one of the most powerful positions in Congress. When he spoke, people listened not just because of what he said, but because of the weight he carried. In that room across from him sat Kash Patel, a name not everyone knew, but a man with a story worth hearing. The child of Indian immigrants, Patel had worked his way up through the system, starting as a public defender, later joining the Department of Justice, then taking on national security cases, and eventually becoming chief of staff at the Department of Defense. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but he had seen some of the most sensitive intelligence the government held. The hearing was supposed to be about how classified documents were handled, how government officials protected national secrets, and what systems were in place to stop leaks. It was a serious topic, and both sides of the political aisle were tense. Democrats were pressing hard on actions taken during the last administration. Republicans were focused on defending those choices and highlighting the experience of the witnesses, especially Patel, who had been in the room for many of those high-level decisions, as the questions began. It didn't take long for the mood to shift. Nadler wasn't happy with some of Patel's answers. He pushed harder, asked sharper questions. His tone grew colder. The back and forth grew more pointed, and even people watching from home could sense that something was building. Something uncomfortable. Something that had little to do with documents and more to do with identity. The room was full of suits, files, microphones. But what came next would have nothing to do with paperwork. It would be about something deeper, something that would turn a normal hearing into a national headline and shake the entire chamber into silence. And then it happened. Nadler leaned forward, looked directly at Patel, and said, "Maybe you should go back to Uganda before lecturing this committee on American national security for a moment." Everything stopped. No papers rustled. No one spoke. You couldn't even hear anyone breathing. It was like the whole room had been put on pause. Eyes widened. Heads turned. Some people froze in their seats. Others shifted like they weren't sure if they'd heard it right. There were no raised voices, no shouting, but the silence itself felt louder than anything else. A few gasps broke through the quiet one. Staffer looked up from her notes in shock. A Republican congressman blinked hard as if he needed to replay the moment in his head. Even a couple of Democrats glanced at each other, their faces saying more than words could. The insult was clear, and it wasn't just about politics. It went deeper than that. Nadler didn't raise his voice, but what he said cut through the air like a blade. It wasn't just rude, it was personal, and it was racial. Patel, who was born in America, whose parents had come here in search of a better life, was suddenly being told he didn't belong. As if his background erased his years of public service, as if the color of his skin made him an outsider. And in that moment, it didn't matter what side of the aisle you were on, it didn't matter which party you supported. Something about what was said felt wrong to everyone who heard it. Because it wasn't just a cheap shot, it was the kind of comment that says more about the person who says it than the one it's aimed at. Patel didn't move. Not at first. He just sat there staring back across the table. No one knew what he would do next. Would he get angry? Would he walk out? Would he fight back with words of his own? But what happened next wasn't loud or emotional. It wasn't what anyone expected, and it would turn the entire hearing into something no one would forget. Patel sat completely still for a few seconds. His face didn't change. His hand stayed in place, no sigh, no raised eyebrow. Nothing. He didn't flinch or look away, just kept his eyes locked straight ahead while the room around him stayed frozen in that heavy silence. Then slowly, he leaned forward, adjusted the small mic in front of him, and cleared his throat. Not loud, not sharp, just enough to show he was ready to speak. His posture was straight, his voice even, not a trace of anger in it. No shaking, no raised volume, just steady, clear, controlled. He didn't fire back, he didn't rush. He waited until the room gave him its full attention, and then he said, "Mr. Chairman, before I respond to that comment, I'd like to share something with the committee that I hadn't planned to discuss today." The way he spoke didn't sound like someone hurt or offended. It sounded like someone who knew exactly who he was. Someone who didn't need to prove anything by shouting. Patel wasn't trying to win the room with emotion. He was doing something harder. He was keeping his calm in a moment when most people wouldn't have. There was no drama in his voice, but there was weight. Every word came out smooth with purpose. No stuttering. No searching for the right line. He knew what he wanted to say, and he was going to say it in his way, on his terms. The kind of strength that doesn't need noise to be noticed. People in the room started leaning in without even realizing it. No one interrupted. No one looked away. They were waiting to see what he would do next, because in that calm response, there was something powerful, something that pulled everyone in. And before he even said anything more, Patel had already changed the tone of the entire room, without raising his voice, without showing anger, just by staying steady. He showed more strength than any outburst ever could. Patel looked across the room and then down at the table for a second. Before reaching into his jacket pocket, he pulled out a small photo worn at the edges and placed it gently in front of him. He said, "This is my father, taking his oath of citizenship in 1980. His voice steady, but now with a softer tone. This wasn't a defense. This was a story, and everyone leaned in to listen. He started from the beginning. His parents had left East Africa with almost nothing. They were of Indian background, but had lived in Kenya and moved to the United States looking for a better life. They worked long hours, sometimes at more than one job, just to get by. They didn't complain. They didn't expect shortcuts. They believed in what America promised. Not just the dream, but the work behind it. They taught Patel and his sister that effort meant something here, and that this country would give you a chance if you were willing to earn it. Patel went to school like every other kid, but he always knew what his parents had sacrificed. He worked hard, got into law school, became a public defender fighting for people who couldn't afford lawyers. Then he moved to the Department of Justice, where he handled cases about terrorism and national security, not from a distance but up close in courtrooms, in meetings, in moments that shaped real outcomes. He kept going, served as senior counsel for the House Intelligence Committee, then took roles at the National Security Council, and later became chief of staff at the Department of Defense. He wasn't born into power. He didn't have a famous last name, but he had something else. He had purpose and he had service. And that's what he reminded the committee. He said, "My parents may not have been born here, and I may not have been born into privilege, but everything I've done has been for this country. I built my life here, I served here, I protected this nation with everything I had, and when someone like me gets told to go back, it's not just wrong, it's missing the point of what this country is supposed to be, because in America you don't have to be born into it to belong, you just have to believe in it and give it everything you've got." Patel steps up with a calm but firm response to Nadler's challenge. Nadler tries to correct Patel on a detail about his family's background, saying they are from Uganda, but Patel quietly and clearly points out that his family is actually from Kenya. This small correction matters because it shows Patel is confident in his own story and refuses to let others twist the facts. Then Patel reaches into his pocket and pulls out a photo of his father's American citizenship. This isn't just a piece of paper. It is proof that his family has worked hard and been part of America for years. Holding that photo up, Patel makes a very strong statement. Being American isn't just about where you were born. It's about your commitment to the country, your belief in its values, and your willingness to contribute to it. This idea flips the usual argument on its head and makes everyone stop and think. What makes this moment so powerful is how Patel chooses to respond. Instead of getting angry or attacking Nadler back, he offers forgiveness. He shows that real strength comes from dignity, not from shouting or making things worse. By forgiving, Patel shows he's above petty arguments and division. This attitude changes the whole energy in the room. What had been a tense, possibly hostile space suddenly feels more respectful and open. People begin to listen differently. It's clear that Patel's calm confidence and powerful words have shifted the conversation from conflict to something deeper. This moment also highlights something important about identity. Patel's message isn't just about himself. It's about how we should all think about what it means to belong. Being American, Patel says, is about what's in your heart and what you choose to stand for. That idea reaches beyond simple labels or where someone was born. It invites people to see each other in a new way, focusing on shared values instead of differences. As this scene unfolds, you can almost feel the tension melt away. The room's energy shifts from being divided and defensive to something quieter and more thoughtful. Patel's powerful words and quiet strength create a real change. This moment doesn't just settle a small argument, it opens the door for understanding and respect. It's a lesson in how dignity and forgiveness can be stronger than anger and division, and it reminds everyone watching why kindness and truth matter so much. This part of the story shows Patel not just as someone defending himself, but as a person who chooses to rise above conflict and speak from a place of honesty and grace. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful response isn't loud or aggressive, but calm, clear, and full of meaning. After Patel's calm and powerful response, the whole room changes. Even some Democratic members who were quietly watching before start nodding quietly in agreement. You can see that they respect what Patel just said. Nadler tries to quickly change the subject, hoping to take back control of the discussion, but it doesn't work. The energy in the room has shifted, and no one is ready to challenge Patel anymore. What was once a tense political fight becomes something different. The committee grows more respectful. It's no longer just about politics or winning an argument. Instead, it becomes a real human moment. Everyone in the room begins to see Patel as a person, not just a politician or a voice on the other side. This moment shows something important. Controlling your emotions and staying calm can change how people listen and react, even in politics where things often get heated and personal. Patel's calm and clear words quiet the room and bring respect instead of anger. This change in tone reminds everyone that behind political debates are real people with real stories. And sometimes, the way you speak and carry yourself can make a bigger impact than the words alone. It's a lesson in dignity and respect, showing that even in tough moments, how you respond matters just as much as what you say. After Patel's response went viral, the video quickly spread everywhere, on X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. People all over were sharing it, impressed by how Patel handled himself. Headlines popped up calling it "Dignity Under Fire" and "How to Win Without Shouting." The way Patel stayed calm and spoke with respect caught a lot of attention. Even voices from very different political sides joined in to praise him. Ben Shapiro, known for his strong conservative views, said Patel showed what real patriotism looks like. On the other side, Rachel Maddow, a well-known liberal commentator, also praised Patel's ability to respond without anger or insults. This was unusual because normally the media on each side would disagree, but this time they were surprisingly united. They all agreed that Patel's calm and respectful approach was something everyone could learn from, no matter their politics. This moment showed that respect and dignity can cross political lines and bring people together, even when they don't agree on much else. It reminded everyone watching that how you act matters more than what party you belong to. Patel's response became more than just a viral video. It became a symbol of what true patriotism can look like when it's about respect, not division. After Patel's powerful moment in the committee went viral, its impact didn't stop with just news and social media. Schools and civics teachers started showing the clip in their classrooms to explain important lessons about American identity and what it means to be part of this country. The video helped students understand how immigrants have contributed a lot to America's story, reminding them that being American isn't just about where you're born, but about what you believe in and how you commit to the country. Beyond schools, many companies began using Patel's speech in their diversity and inclusion training, showing how respect and understanding can bring people together at work and in communities. The message was clear and powerful enough that Patel was invited to give a lecture at Harvard's Kennedy School, where he spoke to students and leaders about dignity, commitment, and what real patriotism looks like. This moment stretched far beyond politics. It became a tool for teaching, learning, and reflecting on who Americans are and how they can treat each other better. Patel's calm and strong words didn't just win a debate, they inspired a wider conversation about respect, identity, and unity. Toward the end of the hearing, Nadler offers a short, quiet apology. It's quick and doesn't go into much detail, but it's a start. People notice it, but some aren't sure if he really means it. A few days later, though, Nadler gives a more public and thoughtful apology. This time, he takes full responsibility. He admits that his comment about Patel's background was deeply wrong and unfair. He says he didn't realize how hurtful it was until he saw Patel's calm response. In that moment, Nadler says, he was shown a better way, one that didn't come from anger or pride but from grace. He credits Patel's dignity for helping him see the truth and for reminding him what real respect looks like. It's a rare moment in politics where someone admits they were wrong without trying to spin it. For many, it feels like a moment of closure, a reminder that accountability still matters and that even in a divided world, people can grow and change when they're faced with honesty and kindness. In today's divided world, Patel gave us something rare, a moment of true composure when it would have been easier to fight back with anger. He stood in front of a room full of critics, stayed calm, told the truth, and never raised his voice. He had every reason to snap, but he chose something better. He chose dignity over drama, strength over shouting. That choice didn't just help him win the moment. It changed the entire room. We all face situations where we feel the urge to lash out, prove someone wrong, or say something just to hurt back. But Patel showed that there's a different way, a way that holds more power. He reminded us that real courage is about staying grounded, even when everything around you is trying to shake you. This story isn't just about politics. It's about how we treat each other in everyday life. At home, at school, online, everywhere. Patel's moment is a reminder that respect, truth, and self-control still matter, and they still move people. So as we step away from this story, there's one thing to carry with us. Sometimes, dignity wins louder than rage ever could.